Good morning, everybody. All right. Well, let's get to this crazy stock, huh? I don't know if you saw it. Probably you did. Um, this MX. What an insane, yeah, let me put up the charts. Move for I'd be great to know IPOs when they come out, how much moved in a day, but over 700%. Wow. 13 and change to 83. And so start the day taking a look at that. It's actually 107. Jeez. You would think, what do they got? The cure for the cold for a cold or what? Anyway, I don't know if you're not familiar with Newsmax. It's just a TV station, right? On some of the cable networks. My goodness. Anyway, crazy stuff. So the markets, S&Ps and so on, yesterday, it, it's not every day, but almost in lockstep. Um, Following interest rates. Where's my yeah, you can see that move up, the little flip down early in the morning and then grinding higher all day. It's on major support. It's a very important level. You could see on the weekly chart, there's nothing below here. Uh, Similarly, we'll take a look at it, but crude oil, I guess it was over a month ago, something like that. We'll take a look. Was down on a major support level and it kind of was grinding its way higher at that time. Um, so we'll see if this stabilizes here. Everything is hinged on what is Trump going to say on Wednesday with these tariffs. So there's a lot of uncertainty still. I mean, the patterns, technically, things are just, trading off of technical levels of support and resistance. Um, And now they're at resistance. When we get to the broader markets, and we'll just see what they do. They're down here a little bit, as I'm sure you know. Um, but we've got interest rates on a very important level, and breaking below here, them going down, intermediate, longer term would be good. But if they break down here, uh, be more of an implication that you know recession is coming. The transports had a good day yesterday, and we'll take a look at that. So there are positives out there, and look, just uncertainty as to which way things are going to go, and whether it's technicals, the economy, whatever. But it seems that we're reaching some kind of an inflection point. So interest rates are up here a little bit. Um, let's look at the cues first. They were dragging. They couldn't get going yesterday. And they were holding, chopping, 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 and then eventually they got it going and ground its way up, into this resistance area where it stalled. Um, and so, from Friday, because of the recovery, you can see yesterday's close was as if things just went nowhere all day. I mean, from one day to the next, they went nowhere if you look at it on a line chart. It just held the area of this pivot low, and it's waiting there. Things are down here a little bit, not not a big deal. They're just flip flopping around. You can see how this has come up as interest rates started to lift up. So it would make sense to keep an eye on those interest rates today as to some guidance. And I'm suspecting, I mean, after a day like today, you typically get an hour range day, but maybe there could be some follow through to this. Remember when prices come down vertically like that, you know, rarely just shoot right back up again, especially in front of, the news for tomorrow. Don't like it, but it is what it is. We'll just have to wait and see whatever he's going to say. And I was typing to Dan before that I thought this tariff thing was kind of a set thing. It was just like Wednesday was the day that, everything starts. And then, listening to Fox News, it was like, well, they're just talking about, the uncertainty about what's he actually going to say, what countries and all of that. I mean, to have this kind of thing going on, and everybody have to wait for this day to get clarity on what it's going to be. I think it's kind of ridiculous, but anyway, nothing we could do about it. Set an alert at this pre-market level here. You can see, we've got a little trading range going on. So be aware, at pre-market level, since it's going to gap down a little bit. And the next support level is right here, which, really kind of sets up a potential for a choppy price action here this morning. That one, this one, you know, you can get your little horizontal line or wherever you do it and mark off this area and see as it comes down here whether it's going to hold or not. Um, so, um, the Russell, it was the stronger in the morning and then it lagged. So it was kind of, you know, typically it was like, okay, this one is showing relative strength. It should continue to show relative strength, but it didn't. And so expectations are what they are based on the technicals. But eventually it got up to resistance where it stalled as well. And now we've got this little gap down. So does it hold the pre-market pivots? Continue back up to try and get through this area here? Or do we just kind of meander here all day and, and wait for tomorrow? And not a great setup here, between the news and just technically. And, we covered the weekly charts where, this one is already down to this major support, but so many of the weekly charts have this continuation pattern of this initial move down, holding, and then last week, the move up and then the failure. Kind of a interesting, tough point. The opposition of, you've got the support here, continuation pattern on the higher time frame, and mentioned yesterday, and I know in the green room we covered this as far as, slowing momentum and trend changes and so on. But if it stays down here, something's going to happen Wednesday, right? Everybody's waiting for the move. If it stays down here, just ignore news coming. It stays down here for a few days, and especially if we get a rejection day where it tries to pop up and comes back in again, that opens up the door to lower. However, if if it can from here have a deep retracement, that changes things dramatically. And so retracement concept, support, resistance, you got to put it all together to come to some point. And, the takeaway from yesterday's conversation in the room was, there's times, well, I guess most times, there's more times doing analysis of putting together different concepts before the price patterns actually create a pattern that's actionable. And so, is this actionable now? I guess anything's actionable based on a personal trading plan to say, hey, this is on support. You had a reversal day, buy it above here and see what it does. On the other hand, saying, well, things that come down vertically typically don't go right back up again. They typically come up and they go down or they go sideways. So there's not high probability patterns here at the moment. It doesn't mean something intraday won't set up. And even when you talk about credit spreads, like you want to do a put spread down here with news coming, it just doesn't leave for high probability, comfortable setups, confident setups. All right, so spiders, He's going to have a similar pattern here, but that's a big day. Right? That's a big day. That was the leader yesterday. Um, and it didn't do much to change the weekly continuation pattern. And from one day to the next, on a closing basis, it went up a little bit, but overall nothing happened, and some sideways price action here. We'll see if that's in the cards. You can see the little move up as interest rates started to move up. It's a little grinder within a trading range. You have this little support area from yesterday. And so there was the initial move up and a lot of choppy action, and then maybe whatever, buying into the close or short covering or whatever it might be. Things moved up, and then pre-market, we see things have just been rattling around here, but it's been a grind to the upside here as interest rates have come off of those lows of major support. All right, so we always look at this. Where is it? Gapping down a little bit. No real damage being done to yesterday's bar. It's in the upper, I don't know, 10% even. Pre-market lows. Be aware. Set alerts. If they go away, if you choose to set your charts up that way, that's data goes away. Little gray area, that's pre-market. I'll do SPX early. Yesterday, nothing was touched. This was ridiculous down here. Hindsight, of course, being ridiculous, but even though it was gapping down, to be that far away and under a whole number. And there was the initial little dip first thing in the morning, and then the grind higher up into this area. And this exceeded this resistance area. We saw the others, the Qs and the Russell actually stopped right there. And so this continued to move higher. So that, showing some relative strength. And so financials and insurance companies were doing well yesterday. We're going to take a look at KIE. As far as most things go, even though this is sloppy, it's doing a heck of a lot better by not going down like most other things are. So you might take a look at some of the stocks that are in there, some better than others. This one Dan mentioned yesterday, but there was no premium in it. That one broke out to the upside. I think that's a new all-time high. You might remember this stock. Do you remember this stock from the days where they were going to go out of business? There's a lot of criminal activity. I think this was the one. Times change. It's coming back. I think that was when, 2008. I think that's when Bear Stearns went under, and yeah. It was nasty time. I think that movie, The Big Short, is based on all of that. Great movie. All right, so this is down a little bit, down a little bit here, but breakout to new all-time highs. And so other stocks that were in the sector didn't perform like this, but some of them look like they can bring up the rear. All right, let's go back to SPX here for a second. Well, let me look at the transports for a second. So they're showing a little relative strength. And so some of the truckers and the rails were holding up. Not that they look like anything special, but we got to look at what is showing relative strength. So while we see negatives out there, while I wouldn't call this such a positive, it's mildly positive that it's going sideways and trying to build a little support area, actually a trading range, and we'll just have to see what it does in the coming days. Here's SPX. So let's just see. So this is, average true range just based on yesterday's close. Things are down a little bit, so we look above and below there. And 16. coming up a whole heck of a lot, of course, after yesterday. All right. So the takeaway is the upside is within striking distance based on average true range. However, and not that this kind of thinking you gotta have the thought, but just technically whatever's going to happen is going to happen regardless of the news if buyers decide so. Um, but it's up at the that 20 MA there and the top of that bar, and this is down here below. Um, but things are grinding up. I showed you interest rates, and keep an eye on those to see if they continue moving up, which will increase the probability that this isn't going to go down there. But as if the market lifts up, this premium is going to go away. So for today, thinking, okay, what would be the safe zone? I would say something below 5,500, because those whole numbers and whole half numbers tend to have the big open interest, which we can take a look at. And 5 days, Robert. I think 14 is too much, which is usually the default. Um, Somebody's typing some stuff in here. Social media, they let me know if I join it. That's some bullshit advertising. Out, gone. All right. So below 5,500, even it comes up, you want to be below that area somewhere in here. And let's say you'd want to be above 5,550. Right. But as far as away as you could possibly get, of course, where there's enough premium. All right. Um, we didn't look at the Dow futures. Give me a sec here. They did well right out of the blocks yesterday and then began to just not do much of anything, but uh, well off of this previous low here. Overall, the patterns kind of stink, right? Low probability stuff. But we got to go through the factory work to continue to monitor these things as they begin to develop. But a big wide range down bar followed by a big wide range up bar below the moving averages, so on and so forth. And I think we're just going to get some rattling around. See the little blip up there at this pivot now as interest rates have continued to grind higher, faltering a little bit here. All right, gold new all-time highs. All right, getting a little parabolic there, coming up to 3,200. The next big number up there in any day, probably after the news, this thing starts pulling back. We'll see what it does, but yes, it is getting extended, and you can see on the weekly chart. And this is, when I talk about continuation patterns, like we have the weekly and the S&P's continuation down, that's a continuation up. And so in a trend, in this case, an uptrend, strong uptrend, you get a breakdown bar, right? And you see how it broke down under these lows and then it retraces right back up again. Continuation up. So with the spiders, we kind of hope that it doesn't work out that way, but you can see similarly, if it does go down, it's just going to set up an incredible buying opportunity because it'll be down a tremendous amount. Things will become whatever, you measure the S&P PE and what the value of a history and all that, it'll come to something where people will be comfortable buying. But in any event, big move down, an attempt to move up, nasty reversal down. So, it would suggest coming down here, measured move somewhere into this area, but we'll just have to see. If this green bar fails and it takes out the low, well, then I suppose it's going to be look out below. Crude oil had a great day yesterday, blasting through that pivot. It's holding up here. And silver, kind of dogging it. Maybe it plays some catch up, but just dogging it there. Bitcoin hasn't been doing much of anything, just chopping around. And Dan is not with us this morning. So I will go through some opens. And anything you want us to look at. This looks great. This is an open. Looks like it's, jiggling around here a little bit. Docu, certainly in question. This is not going to survive, probably. Well, it's still above the stop, but a depth of retracement like that is not a good thing. E looks good. Looks like it should continue higher. Long looks great. Should continue higher. This one is what I would call a victim of the markets. Because this looked, well, maybe amazing is an exaggeration, but because of the way it came down. But look at how it bottomed out in this downside shakeout. And then on the breakout, and now as the market has come in, this thing pulling back as it has. And like everything else, had a good day yesterday. And you can see pre-market here, it's about unchanged. So not a big deal. Like most things are just hanging around here, not doing much of anything. STZ looks fine. Not doing too much here pre-market, but wide range bar up, rattling around here. We'll see if it can move up. TAN is a short. That went down yesterday, stabilized as the market did. This is another long. Looks great. Actually, looks like if it takes out yesterday, the day before yesterday's high, it should continue to go higher. So some good looking things in a bearish market. This one, you know what? This is one you would say, why the hell do you want to trade not this one? Well, this one was a disaster gap. That was an earnings thing. Being, that Dan did personally that he's dealing with. Maybe that makes a double bottom there. That one looks good. ETR looks good. I say it looks good. That means they're longs. This looks good. Kind of 1, 2, 3. Let's see if it continues to move up. It looks very good. So you can see most things, they're chugging along fine. CAR, that is a bull put credit spread. And 68. That's fine. CF, bottoming pattern, bull put credit spread, nothing wrong there, just waiting for it to deteriorate, meaning time premium to evaporate. Another bull put credit spread, right? Looks fine. TTZ also a bull put credit spread. So all these bottoming patterns doing put spreads, and the way things came down, right? We don't have stuff for call spreads yet. Haven't gone up enough. Take a peek at the fangs and some of the big caps. Uh, so other than the frickin' news, which I hate talking about anymore, something like AVGO, semiconductor with a reversal day, if we could get far enough away, I'll take a look in a little while, after the open. Might be worth considering for a put spread is when we look for put spreads, we look for something more like a NVIDIA, right? Where you get a retest pattern and then, will it start moving up and is there premium down below? Especially if it was at 100, $100, give or take like that. Apple had a decent day yesterday. I mean, you can see all of these are in downtrends. So it's not an official bear market, but let's call it a mini bear market. Uh, you know, big down day, big down move on Meta, right? So that's your weekly bearish bar continuation pattern. There's some stabilization. Tesla holding there. Lots of talk about Tesla. Musk said he had, did he say 1,700 death threats? I think that's what he said. It's crazy what's going on. I mean, it's just a different kind of crazy from one administration to the next. I guess this one was inevitable. Um, Google. So just stabilization days. Um, JP Morgan looking pretty good. Good many stocks are. Yeah, right. Many stocks are in bear markets. So as we look at different things, and I've said this many times in the past, just because the market is not a bear market yet, like if you look at prior corrections where the market has had maybe 10% corrections, you will often find stocks that are down 30, 40, sometimes 50%. So you can't, officially we measure bear markets by, what the Dow or the S&P's done, but uh-uh, you know, you'll see plenty of things that get annihilated during those minor market corrections. So that's called sector rotation. All right. Um, so this is on some support, as you can see. And so these type of setups are ones that are likely to begin to stabilize ahead of others that are not at support. Walmart had a great day. Um, and here we go. Market's starting to open here. So I have to shut this down, this platform, so I can open it up on the other system. So I'm going to do that. I'm going to switch to TC2000. Give me a second here. And e-signal, why, I don't know. But it takes like a minute to close it down and it takes like a minute to open it up. So as we start out here, you know, just like, are they going to stabilize or not? Just monitoring transports, gap down. Uh, what happened here? It stopped. Okay, you should see those charts now. Well, it's a big day, Delta, to do Walmart. That would definitely be the idea. Ideally, Walmart. So, look, we don't always get what we want, right? But when I say ideally, it's what I'd like to happen. Walmart hangs out here for 30 minutes and then takes out the high. Even better yet, it just sits here all day and, markets have happy days tomorrow and this breaks out. So yes, set an alert on Walmart above the high there. The alternative is to share size it with a stop below the wide range bars low, which is okay. Less shares as long as money management. Give me a second here. I got to open this up. It's a little bit of a process. So when Dan's here, when he's speaking, that's what I'm doing. So when I have to open up the brokerage thing that connects to eSignal and Ninja, I got to log in there, get my authorization. Everything these days needs authorization. Where's my little ding? So a little buying here on the open. What's doing well today? That's bad. Natural gas is down. There's a lot of talk about natural gas lately. Floppy. Well, let's see what's up on the day here. Hmm, interesting. Volatility. No pattern there. A second here. Just a 15-minute. So maybe, this here is a Bitcoin. This is a ARK Fund Bitcoin thing. Um, just looking at how it's GBTC. Not interested in the daily chart, but um, what I am interested in somewhat is the fact that it gapped above this resistance intraday and what it might do in the next hour or so as far as potentially moving up. You can see it's down several days in a row on the daily chart. IWM at that support area. So there's a one negative on the day. You can do it, Thomas, as long as you share size it. If it takes out the wide range bar at Walmart, is everything okay with Dan? Has some, I don't know, I wouldn't call it cross-eyed thing, but his vision is a little off, and he went to the optometrist. Yeah, a little continuation pattern. So I'm not a big fan of continuation patterns, and as long as you share them size them accordingly. But this one, I think this was along in the letter, I think, over here. And so, here's your red bar ignored reversal. I don't know what it's called, but anyway. All right, market's a little shaky here. Some of the food stocks were doing well yesterday. Keep an eye on this Kroger. Um, so here is, a similar pattern to the other one, that soft drink one that we were looking at. Wide range bar, pull back into a 20, the reversal. So the ideal scenario was, to get it here. Uh, but this isn't a bad one to take a position in, you know. It's not starting off the day well, so there's no rush to see how this holds up. But I'm going to throw it in a thumbnail to keep an eye on it. It's holding up well. There was a few others I think that we looked at yesterday. This was the best looking one. Here's Sprouts. We looked at this one yesterday. Sprouts. Maybe we get a 1, 2, 3, but set an alert above that bar's high because that was the gap down reversal. Yesterday's price action, but this has room to run. So I like that. Another food stock. Coin is coming down. GBTC is coming down. Tesla gapped up and it's coming down. Semiconductors are coming down. SOX, but against yesterday's up day, so just bouncing around here initially. Inside days. Right? This price action is trading inside yesterday's range. But initially, sellers. Sloppy stuff here. Looking at, well, you have to look at pre-market spiders. I'm looking at S&Ps where they fell from. They're caught between support and resistance here. If they can get back up to the pre-market high, there's room for them to go up. Not a lot, but it's just a little bit of a standoff right now between buyers and sellers. Yeah, the uncertainty. So this SFM, let's buy this above that high with a stop below. It's going to need like an 8-point stop, but it's got the potential, over time to go up a considerable amount. This, no, I mean, we've had these discussions before, Alex. I mean, they're there. You can't ignore them. But so here's how I rationalize that, right? Or my analysis of it is why would I have a tendency to discount it, not ignore it? That's the wrong word. Because it broke down. So what's the effect of that? Buyers here theoretically got stopped out, not everybody, but it came down a decent amount. I mean, that's 140 something down to 130, and then it begins to rebuild. So retracement of 100%, and it goes sideways at that resistance. So bullish price action. Yeah. I mean, last year, it was a big winner. It was a big winner, back then, and it's kind of like it's rebuilding again. If we look at the weekly chart, it ain't great. It's not great, but you know, uh, this price action here is positive, so it's got room to go up. And this whole thing about the economy and so on and so forth. I guess the thinking is, I guess some kind of techno fundamentals. People still going to buy food, so with that in mind, Costco, Walmart, uh, uh, be careful with $1.30 spread on this thing. Don't take the offer. I don't like that. So it gapped up above yesterday's high, but I guess whatever buying came in. Um, yeah, yeah, he will. He will. He'll be fine. I wouldn't cross-eyed, probably not the right terminology, but I didn't know what else to call it. Markets are just hanging here. Not attractive 5-minute patterns as of yet. I mean, support isn't that far away. Eh, eh, You know, just looking at 5-minute charts, as you can see, support is down. And if it breaks these lows, if you're a scalper, but it's not a great setup. IWM certainly has room to fall. SFM bid for it. No, I'd rather miss a move than pay up and pay, $1.20, $1.30 spread. Walmart, right? So these retailers, you know, what was Google, Alex? I didn't follow. Swing long, okay. All right. Don't like the way it came down, but what are the other fangs doing? A different screen here. Tesla holding up decent. Meta, so far holding up. I got another screen of just the fangs. Amazon was bought into the resistance gap. Apple into resistance. IWM coming back up a little bit. Microsoft, but that doesn't have room. So, Alex, I know you're trading, but just for conversation purposes, on Google, I'm saying you asked me about the other one. Why doesn't this congestion concern you? It may not be as clear, it's not as clear on the daily chart, but on the that would be minor resistance, which that's subjective, but uh you can see this congestion right over here. Yeah, ES took out that pivot. So if you look at the spiders, well, they're into this gap fill. If you look at the pre-market and you look at it without the pre-market, it doesn't look so enticing. But when they're out of alignment like that, it tends to be choppy.